I started out supporting, right, caregivers in the Alzheimer's population of those kind of end stages. Have gone on to work with personally, right, children, and eating disorder population, community mental health, and a host of different things. And I've kind of come full circle to now, as Anna mentioned, kind of work with personal and professional resilience and a lot of professional caregivers. So for the past 2 years, I have been, mentored by Dr. Eric Gentry. You can see kind of some of his credentials here. And this is the foundation, the evidence-based foundation upon what we're going to talk about, what that's built upon. So he is, a recognized leader in his field. If any of you have heard of PESI, he is one of the main trainers for mental health professionals when it comes to all things PTSD, traumatic stress, compassion fatigue, burnout, professional resilience, and all of that good stuff. So I'm very blessed, right, to have the opportunity to work alongside him and the team here. So continuing along that, I will say, so what's the problem, right? What are we kind of talking about here? We have kind of burnout and work-related stress. For today, we are going to take a lens of kind of our stress related to work and our professional lives. Why? Because it has a big impact on our personal lives. We spend most of our waking hours working or trying to produce some income, or if not, we're thinking about it, right? Or we're stressing about it. So we want to look at, right, this combination that Dr. Charles Figley in 1995 coined as compassion fatigue. We lose compassion for ourselves, we lose compassion for others many times with this combination of burnout and work-related stress. So I'm going to pause here. I'm going to ask you to share in the chat kind of what area of work or school, like where are you at in your journey, right? Are you a student? Are you working some? Are you just, worried about working or, worried about income stuff? Where are you at? What area or field are you in if you are working? And if there's anybody sharing those, I will ask you to kind of share those with the group.
You're saying stressed out med student, grad student looking for a job and super stressed. Working in planning and zoning, attorney, 3 years out of law school and looking for a new job, very stressed. Working some and income stress. Students worried about income in the future. PBSD leader responsible for 65 schools, doctoral student, working on dissertation. Working at Trader Joe's, definitely making the most money I've ever made, but I'm struggling to find a place I can afford in Miami. We have another grad student and part-time substitute teacher, income stress for the future. And then working full-time, we have another one saying, and career change stress. And I'll add one myself, working, driving 120 miles a day, stress at times. So I'm right there with all of you.
In good company. We're in good company today. This is going to sound sadistic, but I'm so excited that you're all here. You're in the right place at the right time. So very happy to have you all here. I'm confident that we're going to learn some good things to really be able to manage and deal with some of the stress that you're going through. And I also heard, right, a lot of helping professions, which is one of the things we're going to really kind of was the foundation upon this, what this work was built upon is really all of those helping professions, right? Lawyers, police officers, first responders, doctors, nurses, incredible amounts of burnout, right? Obviously mental health professionals and so forth. So, so you came to the right place. So first of all, how do we kind of measure kind of quality of life, in this case, right, compassion fatigue, burnout. There's a few ways to do that. One of them that I use in my practice, and that is, has been found to be relevant across the board, is the ProQual. So I'd invite you to use that. I can share the actual link, Anna, afterwards. And what the ProQual looks at is kind of our compassion satisfaction, which is our resiliency and our work satisfaction, our burnout. Okay, so the level of negative effects that your work environment has upon you. And then kind of our secondary traumatic stress or work-related stress. Okay, so as you see here, the negative effects caused by your interaction with others, right? Stressed and traumatized clients, students, and patients. Okay, that's a lot of secondary trauma. And then, tertiary trauma might be just anyone outside of those face-to-face interactions with, clients and patients. They're just dealing with people that are stressed, which is most of the population. So the other thing that you might look at when you want to measure kind of levels of perhaps burnout or stress is just the burnout checklist. And that will help you kind of see kind of where you're at and indicate if you might be right on that pattern. So I'm happy to share both of those with you as resources. And we'll get into a little bit of that today as well. So some more questions. We kind of already answered this, right? Which I thought was the case. But the question was, right, is your job stressful? So we already got that resounding yes, right? Your job is stressful. Now I'm going to invite you to start to think about what are some of the causes, what do you feel are some of the causes of your stress? And then what are some of the effects that kind of stress has on the way that you feel, the way that you think, your body sensations, right? So physically, physiologically, and the way that you behave and the way that you act. You're starting to think about that. We're actually going to do an interactive exercise now so that we can start to list that and really just level set with where we're at. All right. So I'm going to, oh no. This is not good. Okay. I'm going to probably have to change my view here for a second to be able to write into this, but I think that will be okay. Hopefully, and I'll just do this and see. Yes, that should work. Can you kind of see okay? All right, so I'm going to invite you to start just in the chat, starting to think about how stress affects you, okay? And just naming, again, what feelings come up, what thoughts come up, how that, works out in how you behave, right? In your physical health, what sensations come up when you feel stressed. And I don't know if you want to read those off to me. What's kind of showing up if anyone has started to share?
Yeah, they haven't started to share yet. So the question is, how do we feel when we feel stressed?
Yeah, what are the effects of stress upon you, right? How does it make you feel, think, act? How does it affect you?
I'm getting anxiousness, irritated, snappy, extra sleepy, impulsive, tired, angry, hair loss, desperate, confrontational, weight loss, breakouts, like skin, checking out, somebody completely just checking out, weight gain.
Checking out. Okay. Yeah. I would call it avoidance. Yeah. Or shut down.
Discouraged.
Yeah. Great job, guys. Yeah. Discouraged. Very good. So these are just a few. Yeah. These are just a few, right, of the effects, right? And how we feel, how we act, physiologically, right? And how kind of stress affects us. So thank you for kind of sharing that. I'm going to come over to this side. Let's see if I can write my notes. There you go. What about the causes? So what do you feel are causing your stress? What are some of the causes? And some of you may have mentioned that kind of previously in terms of your work or your schooling, where you are in life. I heard, some of those things like career changes, income, worry. What else?
Looking for a job,
Mm-hmm.
work-life balance, personal desire for success, family expectations, wanting more income. Happy with career choice.
Yeah. Work. Right?
Future income is another one.
Future thinking.
Food intake type and amount. Too much, too little.
Mm-hmm.
Personal pressure of perfection. Added personal pressure of perfection.
So kind of personal expectations upon yourself is what I'm hearing there.
Yeah, and I'll read these off. I know that you don't have any more space, but I'll read them. They're just so interesting. Medical health conditions of our children, having neurodivergent kids and having to constantly put fires, high competition and limited opportunities, career path, desire for more income and attain a level of success to live a comfortable life, medical health.
Yes to all of that. All of that stuff, right? It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, right? It's a lot of moving pieces. It's a lot of things happening in our environment that feel really scary sometimes. Absolutely. I feel it too. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I know, I hope, my desire with part of this is that, that you're in good company, right? That we are all feeling, right, these effects of stress upon us and have a more similar, right? More similarities than differences. So I hope that you kind of feel seen and heard just by sharing and being able to kind of express some of that. So, I got bad news. You're going to hate me now, right? Your job is actually not stressful. Now I'm waiting for the tomatoes to be thrown at me. Okay. I don't know if you've ever heard that before, but don't hate me yet. We're going somewhere. Okay. Your job is not stressful. Okay. And we'll go to even some of the other personal stuff too, but we're starting here. Okay. I'm here. I feel like I'm getting cursed at in the background, but I'm a therapist, so I'm used to it. So let's kind of see why am I saying that? Well, first of all, what we have to do is we have to define what stress is, right? Which is what I promised you at the beginning. So stress is actually our physiological response to a perceived threat. Okay, stress is defined scientifically, right? Kind of biologically. Stress is our physiological response. What happens, right? Our nervous system was designed to keep us alive, was designed for survival. So our nervous system is constantly kind of like a detector, right? Looking for threat. And when it perceives something it thinks might be a threat, might be scary, might be dangerous, it sounds the alarm. And the way that it sounds that alarm is through our body, first of all, right? So if you see on the left-hand side, you see the effects of perceiving threat, our physiological response, our physiological threat response. Here, increased heart rate, increased breathing rate, right? Decreased breathing volume, increased muscle tension is the foundation to it all, okay? Right? Anybody have, as my mentor says, like shoulders and ear syndrome, right? Where you come home and you're like, I'm so, right? You have all this tension right here in your neck, in your back. It's a lot of energy in your body, which we'll get to in a second. So what happens with this physiological response, right? For me, I know there's also a lot of what's it called, digestive, right, things going on. So this is what is commonly known as our fight or flight response, right? When we perceive threat, what do we want to do? We want to either fight or flight, right? We'll get to the fawn and the freeze in just a second. So what's happening when our body is having all of these reactions, right, is that our brain is not able to keep up, right? We have decreased brain functioning. And so what happens, our frontal lobe activity, right, is decreased when our body is sensing, right, a perceived threat, okay? Even our speech centers, right? I like to say, especially to my younger clients, that's why when you're stressed out or when you're really upset, a lot of times we end up cursing so much, speaking of, because it's all that comes up, right? We don't have the ability to really think through all of the normal words we might use to say. We don't have eloquent speech, right? When our the blood in our brain has gone to our vital organs to try to keep us alive because it thinks we are in danger. Okay, and then we have a few other effects here, as you see on the right-hand side. So basically, right, kind of going back to this, and I just have some examples here from past, from past clients, going back to this chart here, right? So we have causes on the left, effects on the right. But what's really happening, okay, is that these causes on the left, right, your work, the demands from yourself, your family, your environment, are not what are causing your stress. It's your physiological response to the threat that you're perceiving in those things. Okay, that's why also people respond differently, right? Depending on how they're perceiving that threat. Now, it's not that there's anything wrong with you, okay? That you might perceive threat in something that somebody else might not. For example, scheduling, right? Scheduling might feel really scary to someone, right? Because they're perceiving threat in that thing. And somebody else might be like, oh, that's no big deal. Why are you so stressed out? Okay. So what's happening, right, is just like our body responds in those that mentioned kind of physical things, in different ways to disease, our body also responds, it's kind of out of our control initially in different ways to stress, right, to stimuli that we can't fully control. We can learn to manage, but we can't initially control our body's automatic responses. Okay, so that's why we have different kind of effects, different ways that shows up for different people. We also have, very importantly, the past, right? So the painful past learning. If I had, right, something go on in the past that was a really painful experience for me, I like to say, those of us that have survived middle school, high school, right, have enough traumatic stress to last us for a lifetime. We have enough painful past learning of interactions with individuals, right, that anything that is sensorially similar, anything that comes up, we can perceive that as a threat when there's little to no danger. Okay, so we're perceiving threats in a lot of things that are going to be part of our lives always. So if we continue to perceive threat in these things, we're going to continue to have these effects on the right-hand side. We attribute our stress to these things, these causes that we've come up with. We're going to continue to have these effects, right? What's happening is that we go into sympathetic, what we call sympathetic nervous system dominance, or just a dominant stress response, right? That's constantly active. And that is producing a chronic state of stress, anxiety, and eventually burnout. Okay. So the cause, the true cause, right? The root cause of our stress is not these things. It's the perception of threat in these things, right? So I'm going to pause there. I know I said a lot. Are there any questions, any comments, Anna, that you think are important to come through? I think I just offended a lot of people, so I want to check in and make sure that you are still with me, so we can continue to kind of bring this home. Are we good?
I mean, it's just, I'm kind of taking it all in. I don't know what comes to mind with everyone. Is there something
That's
specific
fine.
that comes to mind?
We're good. I will continue. If anything comes up that you feel like you want to add, just let me know. So
Valerie actually made a comment that said, when you feel the direct result of the threat all the time.
Okay.
I actually asked a question before. I said, how do you not perceive it as a threat when you feel the direct result of the threat all the time?
Yeah. So yes, we're getting there. That's exactly where we're going. Thank you. Valerie, right?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. I'll check in with you in just a second to make sure that we're clear on that. Okay. So, and I love the how questions, because I think that is missed so often, which is why I love what I do, right? Because we all know what to do, but we're like, how do I do that? Right. And so I'm very blessed, right, to do this work that I'm excited about. So this is a great kind of quote here that helps us start to kind of understand this. So it says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space, right, cause the stimulus, response or affects our response. Okay, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. So there's another kind of quote that comes to mind that's a little simpler, right? Which is, I'm going to say it a little wrong, but I think I'll get it across. If you find that you can't, I want to get this right. If you find that you can't change the world, then change yourself, right? When you find that you can't change your environment, we change ourselves. Okay, so still we're getting to the how. So if any of you are familiar with Viktor Frankl, he was a doctor. He survived the Nazi camps, and went on actually to work as a doctor and work in this space of trauma, stress, and this space between stimulus and response. So he has a book called Man's Search for Meaning. If you're in the helping professions, highly recommend that. Okay, so here we are getting there, right? We all pretty much wake up in the morning, usually with the best of intentions, hopefully, not all the time, but a lot of times we try our best, right? We wake up in the morning, today's going to be a good day. And then all of a sudden we have like these causes, right? These things that come that trigger us, and we're perceiving threat all around us, seemingly all the time, affected by some painful past learning here. Okay, so our body goes into this threat response. Okay, so what happens, what we know is that when our body goes into a threat response, our body tightens. Okay, we are mobilizing, right? The purpose of a threat response is good when there's a real threat, right? We want that 30-second activation so we can fight or we can run. Okay, so sympathetic, our nervous system activation is good. Sympathetic nervous system dominance, bad. When it stays on more than 30 seconds, or it continues to come on and it stays on, our body was not built for that. Okay, it was built for us to have it for about 30 seconds for survival and then move out of it. But we live in very different times now in present day technology where we have so many stressors around us, right? Where we're lived technically in the safest time in human history, however, experience the most traumatic stress. So what is the foundation of getting out and moving out of that? The how? Let's start to talk about that. We got to release the muscles in the body. We know that historically, psychology has been a lot of top-down approach, meaning brain to body. But in the past 20 years, we've been kind of reversing that and working with a bottoms-up approach, which we know now we have to include the body because of this, right? Stress response specifically. So when we're going to learn a little bit about how do we do that, right? How do we work with our body, learn self-regulation so that we can move towards, right, not constantly experiencing threat in our body, and then all of the self-defense that comes through our thoughts and our actions. All right, so let's continue. So I'll ask you this, right? When you are feeling stress, and I want you to all right now check in your bodies, because this is, I'm sure some of this sounds very threatening right now, right? What do you mean those causes aren't the causes? I know what's causing my stress. Trust me, I have been there. But when we feel tense in our bodies, who's squeezing the muscles in your body? Is it your partner? Is it your boss? Is it your kid? It's me. When I feel stressed and my muscles are tight, I'm the only one in control of squeezing, right? Constricting or releasing. So what do we know? We cannot have like relaxed muscles and go towards what we want to move towards is self-regulation and be stressed at the same time. Similarly to, we cannot laugh, right? And physically feel stressed in that moment. Is there a question? I heard somebody maybe come off of mute. Nope. Okay, we're going to go into an activity now. I teach this just about every day in my work with my clients, and these are tools for self-regulation. I have about my favorite 5. Today, we're going to go over 3 together. Okay, so I'm going to ask you guys wherever you're at, if you're sitting in your car, if you're at your desk, we want to go over, these 3, try them out now with me so that you can see if you can start to feel a little bit of the difference there. Okay. Once we get through this, we'll kind of run through the rest, but this is really important. Okay. So the 3 tools, right? We have body scan, we have breath, and we have pelvic floor relaxation. So body scan, right? Most of us, I don't know if anybody has been to yoga. I love yoga, right? Yoga often uses some version of body scan, but it's a long version of body scan. When we talk about self-regulation, we talk about, right, acute relaxation in the face of a perceived threat or a stressor, okay, while still staying engaged. That means not leaving, okay? We want to stay as engaged in our lives and experience our lives as much as possible. If there is an acute threat or acute, stress where we're at a level 9 or 10, we may need to leave the room. Okay, so we're glossing over some of this, but as much as we can stay engaged, especially when we're at work or we have our kids around us, right? Or we have other people, we want to try to self-regulate and come back to a safe kind of body, right? Where we can kind of understand that, communicate to our body, better said, that this is a perceived threat, but we're actually safe right now. So how do we do that? One of those ways that we do that by releasing those muscles is with a body scan. So we do this for about 10 seconds. So we'll do it quickly, or run through this and I'll do it with you. I'm going to invite you to bring the attention to the top of your head where your kind of hair follicles meet your scalp. And we're going to start to scan the body down, okay, from our head to our toes for about 5 seconds. I invite you to do that now with me, and I'll count on the way back up. So I'll guide you now. We're going to put our attention on our forehead. Notice any tension, usually between the eyebrows, cheekbones, drop the jaw. That usually jump starts the process. Notice your shoulder, your neck, your shoulders. Just invite those muscles to loosen. They don't need to be restricted or constricted right now. Continue to scan down your back, all the way down your legs to your toes. Very good. Inviting your muscles to relax, release, and soften. Noticing any tension and releasing it. And scanning back up. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The top of your head. Did anybody notice any tightness in their body? Here's a secret. Most of the time you're clenching, and you're usually clenching your pelvic floor, ladies. So we'll get to that in just a second. So I have a lot of clients that will scan their body right before a meeting and do that when they get that 5-minute meeting reminder. They'll do a quick body scan, sometimes 3 to 5 times, make sure their muscles in their body are relaxed so that they can have full functioning, right, of their frontal lobe and be able to engage and think clearly with all of their faculties in place. Next one is the simplest one, which most of us have some version of this. The added benefit of this, a lot of men for some reason tend to do this naturally, but if we add putting kind of our hands behind our head, it actually opens up our kind of rib cage and allows us to have more oxygen in our lungs. You can do it with or without your arms, but my favorite way to do this is breathing in through your nose for 5 seconds, holding at the top, and just letting go forcefully. What we know is when we forcefully breathe out like that, it helps us reduce our heart rate increase. Again, in through the nose, hold at the top, forceful breath out or exhale. Okay, so you can do that with or without arms. If you're in a meeting, you can do that without others perhaps noticing. Just with your breath, you can regulate your nervous system and, right, prevent ongoing stress. The last one is pelvic floor relaxation. So those ladies who are familiar with Kegels, okay, this is great. Nobody can see this, right? It's a hidden tool. So very, very simple. Imagine, as it says here, kind of connecting your sit bones, your hip bones with your underbones. That's the area we want to focus on. There's a little kind of thing from Wreck-It Ralph where he talks about clenching his butt. We're all always clenching. Whenever you're wondering, am I stressed right now? Check in, and you're probably clenching, right? So we wanna, we'll do that now. So I'll invite you actually to tighten, right? Like if you're doing a Kegel for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then release. And maybe imagine your bottom kind of melting like butter on a hot pan, just melting into your seat, opening that space. That's where our vagus nerve sits. We know when we're relaxed in that space, the rest of our body, right, jump starts that softness, that relaxation. Within about 20 seconds, our blood is returning to our head and we're able to think more clearly. Okay, so those are 3 tools. I'm happy to, again, share more with you after the fact, right? So again, ways to prevent work-related stress when we're witnessing others, right? Others stress out, any trauma, any suffering. We want to use acute or micro relaxation practices. And in the same kind of very similar way that we prevent work-related stress and really any stress, this works with my kids very well. For me, right? When I am regulating myself, when I'm breathing, when I'm scanning my body, right? I drop my jaw many times to relax and release. That really allows me to lend them some co-regulation, right? Which we won't jump into today, but it allows me to co-regulate with my children. What we know from traumatic stress studies is that what kids need most is a regulated caregiver or adult, okay? That's how they heal and function best. And so in a similar way, how do we resolve work-related stress? We'll go into really quickly developing and using a support network and sharing our stories in safe spaces, right? Along, of course, with self-regulation. So dis-ease, right, is not the presence of a toxic environment, but the absence of effective antibodies. So we talked about, right, the prescription here. And these are the 5 antibodies that I work with when I work with professional resilience or just work-related stress and burnout. Okay, we mentioned self-regulation. We're going to quickly fly through intentionality, right? Perceptual maturation, connection and support, and self-care. We got a couple primary and then some secondary ones. And I'll see if we can do maybe I have like 1-minute videos for each, but we may just do 1 or 2 of those. So again, we mentioned self-regulation, right? Or we'll be kind of, for lack of a better term, hitting this over the head. This is resiliency skill number 1, the foundation. Okay, now let me just play this one and see if you can hear that.
But I think when you get to that physiology part, especially the nurses in the group, all of a sudden you've got them. They're like, wait a minute, this is starting to make sense.
One is that I've gotten a lot more aware about how both stress and feeling overwhelmed, which I guess is stress, the really intricate connection with what's happening in my body.
That's the biggest thing. Beyond that, it's really it's practicing relaxation. It's practicing regulating my autonomic nervous system, both sympathetic and parasympathetic. It's with practice, it becomes very easy, almost second nature, and I can often get those 2 systems to sort of harmonize and sort of play off each other, and it creates an energy that I can ride. Those are the things that I find most helpful.
In coming to a better
Okay, so that was the end of that video. So asking again, who's squeezing the muscles in your body? Very good. And how do you stop that? We got some tools now to help. So the next one is intentionality.
My job is my opportunity to practice my promise to myself, and as a caregiver, if my promise is to go forward and do what I can to make a difference and take care of each patient, colleague, visitor that I come into contact with, then that's what I'm there to do, one day at a time.
As you go through the day long, we do it as a day long session for the most part, and just watching folks from 8 o'clock in the morning until 2 or 3 in the afternoon, just various points in the program, things beginning to click. Moments of frustration and confusion to moments of clarity, to moments of frustration and confusion to clarity, and just watching that series of events repeat itself. And by the end of the day, folks are certainly tired, but they walk out of there feeling like they have hope that they can save themselves from what they have been viewing as a real threat to something that's important to them, their work, that they're very passionate about.
What other job can you think of where you can say, you go home in the day and say, I did something that I've touched somebody today in a positive way, and I've helped them. I said, so remember that if you choose to do this and you really want to do it, you're going to get a lot of rewards. I'm not going to say it's all going to be good, and that people may not be mean to you, but in the end, it's worth it.
Reconnecting with your sense of mission.
Okay, so intentionality, what is that? So most organizations, right, nowadays, the past 10 years, have really focused around mission, vision, values. Now, what are your personal mission, vision, and values? It's one of my favorite things to do when I work with my clients is helping them identify and really solidify, starting with values, right? And then mission and vision. So mission is day to day, right? How do you want to show up? And then your work, as they were saying, and everything you do is an opportunity to carry out your mission, right? And so I'm happy to share a document if you want to go down that path for yourself, but that is absolutely a vital, right, resiliency skill and antibody to burnout is developing that, right, and clarifying that and reminding yourself of that on a consistent basis. So I won't go through the rest of the videos, but the next resiliency skill, right, is perceptual maturation, another favorite. When I do this with clients, it's just a really nice aha moment. And I think that might have to do a little bit with your answer, the answer like to your question as well, right? As we're perceiving, the first perceptual maturation that we go through is perceived versus real threat, right? And then once we do that, my next favorite usually is choice versus demand, okay? Children have choices, children have demands, adults have choices, right? And so when we begin to move from demand to choice, we start to re-empower ourselves. We start to feel like we have, right, the ability of freedom of choice, and we get new energy. All right. So, again, happy to send more information on this, but very valuable, right? And so kind of combining self-regulation with our maturing perceptions of ourselves and our environment, what we can control, what's in our control, which is our choices, we begin to strengthen our resilience. Resiliency skill number 4 is connection and support. Okay, we want to create a community for ourselves that we can hold us accountable, can let us know if they're seeing symptoms of stress and burnout in us. Right. What we do is often invite folks to actually reach out to about three people that they can say, hey, can you be part of my support system for determining and looking out for burnout? These are the things. This is how I want to be. We provide a little script for you to do that. Okay, but you can do that yourself, right? And check in with that community, maybe once a month or whatever cadence kind of feels good to you. And of course, last but not least, okay, we leave this for last on purpose because oftentimes we think it's the only thing, but it's just one component, which is self-care. Okay, so we want to, as we're burning through, right, with our work, because there will be, right, we're using our resources, right? So we're burning through some of those resources. We need to refuel. Okay, and we call this self-care and revitalization. So the true kind of way that we do self-care is what will give you more energy and re-energize you for the next day. Work, what's going to actually support you, right? So usually, right, we can have a glass of wine and that's nice and that's kind of, yummy, but that's not necessarily self-care, right? Because it's not going to necessarily refuel us or revitalize us for the next day. Still, right, I'll have my glass of wine, but we want to focus on these areas, right? Physical, we cannot overstate the importance of physical activity 3 times a week, right? At least 30 minutes of some type of aerobic activity for our physical and mental health, psychological, emotional, spiritual, and professional. So what I do is I do a self-care assessment, identify those areas, right? And then build a whole intentional resilience plan with these 5 areas. So here you go. Prescription for resiliency, never feel stress again. Number 1, right, we'll do it in reverse order. Take care of yourself, right? Take care of your health, revitalize, connect with your peers, with your support system. Make sure you have that clear. Begin to mature your perceptions of what you can control. Be intentional with your mission, vision, values, and self-regulate 50 to 200 times per day. Release the muscles in your body. Communicate to your body that you are safe. All right. So I'll conclude with that. Again, here's my information for anybody that's still on. I know we have 5 minutes, so I'm going to save that to see if there's any questions, understand those that have to run. If there's any resources that you want, Anna, please let me know. You can reach out to Anna as well. I'm happy to serve however I can.
Thank you, Sheli. Thank you so much. I learned so much. in this session. So I hope you guys took something out of it. I loved nobody's asked me though, but I'm I love the antibody intentionality. I'm really taking that with me. Carry out my vision. What is my vision, mission, and values? So I'm going to be asking myself that and filling in the blanks. I don't know if anybody else has any comments or questions for Sheli. Please put them in the chat now. We want to, hear you. I know it was, a lot of information. But if you want to hone in on something specific, send your comment to me or send it directly to Sheli. You'll always have any speaker that is in these virtual sessions as one of your contacts. So see that in that way. Your connection just got larger. Hopefully we can expand in any area that you may need. And if you don't have any questions, that's okay too. Thank you for joining. This was, again, very, very informative. We will have another topic next month as we do. I would love that you guys continue to join. Most of you were the alum today. We actually have one of our council members, a person I love dearly, Judge Sable, is on. Just want to say hi to her. She's one of our council, and she sits on meetings with us on a month-to-month basis, trying to put together on what we're going to bring to you guys as well. So
yeah, I'm sorry I came late. I so much wanted to be here from the beginning, but just the 15 minutes just was so helpful, and and so many people need this guidance. So thank you again.